To get reaction from our guests to just those words and statements from President Trump, let's bring in Committee to Unleash Prosperity co-founder Steve Moore and Breitbart economics and finance editor John Carney. Steve, just your reaction so far. There's some genuine warmth that you hear from the president when talking about Prime Minister Modi. But when it comes to leveling the playing field on trade, he said, in terms of the kind of excessive tariffs that India charges on United States goods imported into the country, that they're going to begin to work on that in negotiations. But the trade deficit can be narrowed with our energy and our liquefied natural gas. Your reaction?
Well, that's for sure. By the way, you said earlier on the show that India is America's largest trading partner, and that's true of every single country on the planet. Everyone needs to trade with the United States because we have this massive, consumer market. I'm a free trade guy, as you know, Dagan, but I have to say I'm very intrigued by what Trump is talking about here, where he's basically saying to these other countries, you lower your tariffs or we're going to raise ours. I believe this strategy is a risky strategy, but I believe it may work. And if it does work, then believe it or not, we'll have freer trade around the world because we will be able to export our goods into these countries in every corner of the globe. And one last point. I know you all know this, but I want to make sure all the viewers understand. The United States has the lowest tariffs in the world. So we're way down here and the rest of the world's up here. And if they can bring them down, I'm for that.
Amen.
Yeah. Amen, brother. You know, John and Steve, I love you, but we've talked about this before. It is a tool of negotiation. John, yes. Steve laid it out. The path to fairer trade, I think we got to put the ER there, is to use the tariff as a negotiating tool and a weapon. We can't keep losing $2-3 trillion globally to the rest of the world.
Let's take a breath. John's audio is not working. Can we get John's audio fixed?
John, sorry.
There we go.
I think I've got it now.
There you go.
So one of the greatest things about the reciprocal tariff is that it really actually starts the negotiations right away. If other countries don't like the reciprocal tariff, which is just us matching their tariff, for instance, India, their average tariff is 14% on U.S. goods. Our average tariff is 2%. So they are way out tariffing us. If they don't like us raising tariffs to 14% on average on them, there's a very simple solution. Reduce their tariffs. As Steve Moore just said, this can actually lead to far freer trade, far fairer trade. It puts us on an even playing field. And I think that's what Donald Trump is aiming for here, is not to bully other countries, but just to say, we will give you the same deal you give us. Let's do it together. If you don't want to be tariffed, stop tariffing us.
I will quote Tom Phillipson, the former acting chair of the Council of Economic Advisors, before we move on, Steve. He wrote that many people complain about uncertainty, but he said that when you talk about the execution of these trade threats, but he said that is a feature and not a bug. For in trade wars, as in regular ones, leaving uncertain the way in which a plan will be executed is often desirable. So if you leave those trading partners hanging, how quickly do you think some of them just step right up, as we've seen just with the EU and the car tariffs?
You know, I'm going to bet on Trump on this one.
You better.
Because he keeps winning, right?
He's not going to take your calls.
So my money is on him. And you've seen just in the last 2 weeks, all these countries, they complain, they moan. I saw China was saying, well, if you raise your tariffs, we're going to raise ours. That's a tit-for-tat game. China can't possibly win because that would completely demolish their economy. So I think Trump, as I said, I'm with Trump on this one, and I think he is going to win because the guy always seems to win.
Yeah, you know, John, we seem to be converting Steve over. I think there's a little bit of movement there that we might just get you there, that this was a tool, that it's working. But then what are the next steps, John, that the president needs to take? Because if we start getting 2%, 14% balanced, what's next?
So I think a couple very interesting things happened. One, as Steve just said, it doesn't make sense for any country to try to retaliate against our tariffs. One, just because it'll look bad since we're only putting tariffs on them that they put on us. So they're not actually retaliating. They're being the aggressors. And if they raise their tariffs, it's self-defeating because our tariffs will go up by the same amount that theirs do. So the smart move here, game theory-wise, is for them to reduce their tariffs. I think Trump is also, and he hinted at this today in his press conference, he's going to look at beyond tariff barriers to things like Europe's value-added taxes, where when we export to them, our exports are heavily taxed, 21% VATs in some countries, where when they export to us, there's no tax at all. If we include that in the reciprocal tariffs, it'll put a level playing field, argue for them to reduce their tax burden, both on themselves and on our exporters. It'll help them and it'll help us. It's a win-win.
Thank you both.
Thank
Steve
you.
Moore, John Carney, great to see both you gentlemen.
Thank you.